All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Doing that thing you do, breaking my heart into a million pieces, like you always do. And you don't mean to be cruel, you never even knew about the heartache I've been going through. Well, I try to forget you, girl, but it's just so hard to do. Every time you do that thing you do.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, Simul Radio, and Simul TV. Now, if you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv is my email address, and on all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV. And for the broadcast schedule for the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. And for the X Zone TV channel on Simul TV, it's channel 17, simultv.com. Before we get to my guest this first hour, Kate KUNKLE, just a few programming changes that we're going to be doing in the near future. You may find channels and times a little mixed up on our channels. We are installing new servers. The people in engineering apologize for any inconvenience this might cause, but it's to serve you folks in the very near future that much better. All right, Kate KUNKLE is my guest, and she is a writer, musician, and former television producer who has mixed her love of the arts with getting the truth out there since 1986. While working as a harpist in Las Vegas, serendipity inspired Kate to explore the healing properties of music and the harp. This led her to research the power of sound therapy, resulting in her first book, The Healing Sound of Music. But life always has a way of sending us in other directions, as we all know, X Zone Nation. And in 2010, Kate's mother was diagnosed with dementia. The diagnosis spurred Kate into researching again, this time on the causes of this cruel affliction and what she discovered has ignited her in a passion to share the true reasons so many people are suffering. Kate's mission is to prevent others from dying with this terrific death her mother did. And Kate's work culminates in her newest book that is coming out this September, Don't Let the Memories Fade. Her website, KateKUNKLE.com, and that's KateKunkel.com. That's KateKunkel.com. And Kate KUNKLE, welcome back to the X Zone, all the way from Ecuador. My goodness.
Yeah, here we go. It's been quite a trip, and I'm so excited to be able to chat with you from this distance. Last time I was just down the road. This time it's quite a bit further away.
So tell me, do you miss the big city of Toronto?
I miss the cool stuff that you could get in Toronto. Like, you know, it's hard to get things like nutritional yeast here, which is a silly thing,
yeah,
but it's important for me. So little things like that, but the city itself, no. I really love it. I'm right on the beach.
Oh, wow.
So it was my lifelong dream to live by the ocean, and here I am on the Pacific, and I walk every morning, and yeah, I'm pretty happy here.
Well, good for you. If you're happy, I'm happy. And, you know, you said a silly thing like the yeast, and, you know, if it's important to you, it's important, and it's not silly. And I know a lot of people may think that, but no, in my book, if something is important to someone, to me, it's not silly. So good for you. I'm so happy for you.
Thanks, Rob.
Your new book, Don't Let the Memories Fade, is coming out in September. What was your inspiration for writing this book?
My mom was diagnosed with dementia back in 2010. I had just got back to Canada from living in the States for 25 years.
Right.
And I just got back to spend time with my mom and dad, and she started acting really strange. And it took us a while to figure out what was going on. And when we finally got the diagnosis, my sister and I were pretty much in a tailspin.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I'm sure anybody who's listening to this and they have had a family member diagnosed, you know what it feels like. You can't even describe to anybody else what that is, that the feeling in your stomach. And at the time, I had just been through a lot of changes in my life, so I was suffering a little bit from, like, where are my keys?
Yeah.
Why did I walk into this room again? And I know it was partly to do with stress, but with Mom's diagnosis and my scatterbrainedness, I guess that's a word, I thought, oh, I'm not going down this road. I've got to figure out what's going on. So I started researching.
How did your mom's diagnosis of Alzheimer's change your day-to-day life?
Oh boy. Me, not so much, because I was living in Toronto and my family was in Tillsonburg, but my poor sister, it changed her life dramatically. And my dad, really, because he was home with Mom for the first couple of years after, she was there at home.
Right.
And it got so that even when I would come and visit on the weekends, Mom, she couldn't cook anymore, of course.
Oh, no.
So I would always make sure I brought food for them for the week. So we made sure that they had food. She couldn't, she wandered a lot. She couldn't sleep through the night, which is very typical now that I've learned all about this terrible affliction. It's very common to not be able to sleep and to wander. And she was doing a lot of that. So poor Dad couldn't sleep. And then whenever I would stay, I wouldn't sleep. And of course, Mom, it gets worse when you don't sleep. You know what it's like yourself. If you don't get a good night's sleep, what happens?
Oh, you feel buried for the rest of the day. You're just dragged out. Everything is, you live in that foggy haze.
Exactly. So imagine this woman whose brain is already deteriorating, and add that, no sleep. So for all of us, it was a matter of just trying to make Mom comfortable, so that so that nothing would agitate her, because she had a very aggressive form. Like, she was aggressive.
Right.
She got to be aggressive. That was the way her Alzheimer's presented. And so it was about keeping her at peace so that she could, sleep and everything. But it was just, and it was very fast. It was very fast for her.
Between the time that she started having the symptoms and the signs of Alzheimer's and the onset of Alzheimer's until the time that you folks got the diagnosis, how long did that take?
That was about 2 years before we got a confirmed diagnosis. But by that time, I was already starting to dig into the research, and I had already made the diagnosis. I knew that that's what was happening. All of the symptoms that she had, they pointed right to Alzheimer's.
Something that a lot of people may not realize, that when a person like your mom has Alzheimer's, the effect on the immediate family and the immediate circle is just horrific.
Yeah, and you know what? The big thing with that, the caregivers, the circle, as you said, which is a great word. I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
They become so stressed.
Yeah.
And stress is one of the biggest contributors to the likelihood of developing dementia in the future. So caregivers are especially susceptible to suffering dementia themselves, because, one, they don't sleep very well.
Right.
Two, they don't eat properly. They don't get exercise, and they're in incredible amounts of stress. So it is a huge change for everyone involved.
Is there a lot of support for people and families of people who have Alzheimer's?
It kind of depends on where you are. Where my mom was in Tillsonburg, Ontario, it's this pretty small community. However, they did have an Alzheimer's Society chapter there for Oxford County.
Right.
So they got a fair amount of support. But here's the really difficult thing about a patient with dementia. they do not want to admit that they have dementia. They do not want to admit that's anything wrong. And in my mother's case, that was very much the case, because she was always, boy, she was a force of nature in her day, let me tell you. So for someone to tell her anything just did not sit well at the best of times. So add dementia, which one of the symptoms also is that you don't filter anything anymore. When you get a little more advanced, you don't filter right from wrong, hurting people's feelings. That doesn't enter your mind. So she went that way very quickly, and so we couldn't even convince her to do things that would have maybe made it better for her. So it's this it's this big circle, because they've got this stuff going on. You might have people who can help. Like the people at the Alzheimer's Society would come and they would offer to help, but mom wouldn't accept it. And so then she'd get worse and they'd come and help it. So that's a problem with many patients with dementia. I've learned more and more as I've done this research.
All right, Kate, please stand by. You and I have to take our first commercial break. Exonation, Kate KUNKLE is our very special guest this hour. And if you'd like to find out more about Kate, visit her website at KateKunkel.com. That's KateKunkel.com. And watch out for her new book that's coming out this September, Don't Let the Memories Fade. This is The X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Wish that I could hold you. You don't know how many times I've wished that I could mold you into someone who could cherish me as much as I cherish you. Perish is the word that more than applies to the hope in my heart each time I realize.
Nobody can tell you there's only one song worth singing. They may try and sell you, 'cause it hangs them up to see someone like you. But you've gotta make your own kind of music, sing your own special song, make your own kind of music, even if nobody else sings along.
Welcome back, everyone. Kate KUNKLE is my special guest. Her website is KateKunkel.com, and she has a brand new book coming out this September entitled Don't Let the Memories Fade. Kate, what do we know about Alzheimer's? Is it the luck of the draw, or is it something that has to do with genetics?
Well, there is a genetic component. There is a gene APOE4, doesn't really matter what it's called, but it is the gene that is present, and it can increase your likelihood of developing Alzheimer's, and that specific kind of dementia. So there are many kinds of dementia. Alzheimer's is just one of them.
What is the most popular?
And so this gene, Alzheimer's is the most popular.
It is, eh?
Yeah, it's the most common. Yeah.
Okay.
So this gene is present, but you can have the gene and not have Alzheimer's, and you can most certainly have Alzheimer's and not have the gene. So it is not a death sentence by any stretch of the imagination. And I recommend to people not to even be tested for it, because then you set that thing in your brain. Oh, I've got the gene, I'm going to get it. Because people get that way, right?
Is there any cure in the foreseeable future that your research has shown, or is there anything happening that is promising when it comes to the early diagnosis and the cure of Alzheimer's?
So for cure, no. The best cure is prevention, and that's my whole thing, because nobody has to die. Nobody has to suffer with these diseases, because they are, in most cases, I would say about 80%. Some researchers say 70%. It can be 70 to 80%. These are lifestyle diseases, just like smoking. Lung cancer of the lung is caused by smoking.
Yeah.
Most cases of dementia is caused by poor diet, lack of exercise, and a whole ream of other risk factors. The cure is coming from the prevention, but there are now tools. There are 2 blood tests that are just starting to come out. One tests the tau protein, the other one tests amyloid. Those are the 2 proteins that create those. You've heard about the plaques and tangles
Yes.
that are Alzheimer's. So those are proteins that develop and create these little messes, like nests almost, in the brain. And they can be, that protein can be measured now in some blood tests. They're working on it. But those tangles, those proteins, are actually our body's defense mechanism kicking into high gear. Just like it can cause an autoimmune disease.
Yes.
Our immune system going into hyperdrive is what causes these plaques and tangles to build and get worse and worse. The problem with the way the pharmaceutical industry has been approaching this is that they're trying to eliminate these plaques and tangles. But what happens if you remove the thing that the immune system is building to protect your brain?
Mm-hmm.
The immune system's going to kick into higher gear. And that's why when patients are put on these drugs, they might get better for a little while. Their cognition might improve,
Right.
but then they decline very rapidly because the immune system kicks in and say, holy shoot, we've got these, our system's broken, we got to go build more. And so that's what happens.
Is there any one country that is, in your opinion, further advanced when it comes to the treatment of and the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease?
No, treatment is basically the same everywhere,
Really?
and they give those, a couple of different drugs have been approved, but no, there really isn't. Now, there are people that are much better at caring for people with dementia. Holland is amazing. The Netherlands has a great system, and I think in Canada they're building one of the memory villages on Vancouver Island, I believe, is where they're putting it. So, and these are villages where they have it looks like a village, a town, and they have storefronts and things like that. But it's all enclosed, of course, so the patients are safe, and it makes them feel like they're in their environment from when they were well.
Oh, gosh.
So yeah, it's amazing. It really is. I mean, the sky it looks like a sky, and it gets dark at night. So there are countries, and there are certainly in Ontario, there was a place that my mother ended up where she passed away was in London, and it was a very good facility. They had excellent memory care. But as you know from the deaths that happened during COVID in the nursing homes, the can of worms has been opened.
Yes.
That the care, so the care is not so good. And so when you don't have people getting any kind of mental stimulation and they're not being fed properly, then decline is very rapid.
I understand that you have made a connection between music and dementia.
Yeah, I'm sure not alone in that. There's been a lot of research on, and I'm sure many people listening to this, if this is something you're interested in, you've probably seen the video of the elderly gentleman who was completely non-responsive, and people would put a headphone with music from his youth, and he started talking and smiling and laughing. So there's some part of our brain that is the music rests there, and that is the last part of our brain to go. It's really interesting. And so even though the patient may still be very sick and you're not going to cure them with music, you can bring them back and offer a better quality of life. Now, before they are, like when you're working on prevention, I recommend music any way you can get it. Dancing is amazing. Singing in a choir, because you also want to be with other people. That's so good for your brain. Singing in a choir. And musicians, this is very interesting, use both sides of their brains because music is math. And if you are using the creative side and you're using the mathematical side, you are using both sides of your brain. The corpus callosum, that big strip that goes between the hemispheres of your brain, It's actually thicker and stronger in trained musicians.
Well, let me ask you something, Kate. If somebody is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, would it not be beneficial to teach them how to play a musical instrument?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Any way they could get to music is going to help. Yeah, it's going to help slow it down. Now, you also need to help them eat properly because
Right.
a lot of the food is a big issue. And when people get older, lots of times they don't eat properly, right? They may not have the money. They
Yeah.
may not have the facilities to cook. There are a lot of reasons why they don't get the nutrition. And so with music, absolutely, that would help. That would absolutely, yeah.
I've always been one to say that we do not take proper care of our senior citizens in this country of ours. There are other cultures where seniors are revered. They're very important members of society because they have the experience, they have the knowledge, they have the lifetime of gathering this wonderful information that they hold. And yet, in Canada, well, we'll just put them in a home. We may visit them once a week just to make ourselves feel good. And
Yeah.
I've always felt that's so bad.
Yeah, and it's very unfortunately in most Western nations, that's pretty well the way it is. But as you know now, I live here in Ecuador, and the family is very, very important here. I think there's one nursing home in the whole peninsula here where I live.
Right.
The families stay together.
Wow.
So, like you might have 3 or 4 generations in the house.
Yes.
So I think that's a reason. Ecuador is number 144 in the world for Alzheimer's in terms of how many people have it, like 44 per 1,000 or something.
Right.
And it's 144 per 1,000, or 10,000 in the U.S. So think about that. One of the richest countries in the world, and Canada is the same. It's basically the same level as the United States. The level of Alzheimer's compared to here, where it's a very poor country, but the level of Alzheimer's is much lower.
You and I are going to have to take our break for the news at the bottom of the hour very shortly. But when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about nutrition because you are a vegan nutritionist, and I'd like to get your idea and your suggestions for a diet, because maybe there's somebody out there listening who either has someone in their immediate family who has Alzheimer's or knows somebody who has Alzheimer's, and we might be able to give them a helping hand when it comes to nutrition. Is that okay?
Sounds awesome.
All right, please stand by, Kate. Exo Nation, my guest this hour is Kate KUNKLE. Her website is KateKunkle.com, and she has a new book coming out this September entitled Don't Let the Memories Fade. And we'll both be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
'Cause it hangs them up to see someone like you. But you gotta make your own kind of music, sing your own special song, make your own kind of music, even if nobody else sings along. You're gonna be nowhere, the loneliest kind of lonely. It may be rough going.
Welcome back, everyone. Kate KUNKLE is my guest this hour. Her website is KateKunkle.com, and that's KateKunkel.com. And like I've been saying, she has a new book coming out this September, Don't Let the Memories Fade. Now, Kate, we've been talking about Alzheimer's throughout this show so far. And you are a vegan nutritionist, and one of the things you said in your research when it comes to Alzheimer's is that is a factor, is a diet. So how can we better inform our listeners on what kind of diet that people who have Alzheimer's or who have been recently diagnosed to help them as well as their families?
Okay, first, I would like to invite everybody to think about this as a prevention no matter how old you are
Okay.
or how healthy you are. Because Alzheimer's and dementia take 25 to 30 years to develop. We
Wow.
set up the environment in our brains and our bodies way before it is ever diagnosed. So even if you're 40 years old and you're really healthy, you think you're really healthy, if you're eating the standard American diet, which I call the standard diet,
Right.
you're setting yourself up. If you drink too much, if you smoke too much, if you smoke at all, smoking is a huge factor. So I would just like to preface this by saying everybody is at risk because this is a lifestyle disease. And whether you have the APOE gene, APOE4 gene or not, you can bring this on, just like we can bring cancer on by letting ourselves get exposed to like glyphosate, right?
Right.
So the diet that I've researched them all. Let me tell you, I've looked at the keto, the high protein, the low carb, everything. The one thing that seems to be, and this is from the blue zones as well. Do you know what the blue zones are, Rob?
No, I don't.
Those are areas around the world where people live the longest and the healthiest. One of them is in Loma Linda, California, which is on the West Coast, of course. And the people there are mostly Seventh-day Adventists who are mostly vegetarian. And they have some of the best health in the world. And so there have been researchers who have examined all of these blue zones, they call them, around the world. And the thing that is most common amongst them all is a whole foods, plant-based diet. So that means, because being vegan doesn't necessarily mean you're eating well. Being vegan can mean eating Impossible burgers, and those are impossibly bad for you.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Anything that's processed,
Yeah.
like you go to your cupboard and you look at anything in a box, just throw it out.
Okay.
Just don't eat it. Because anything that's processed is not living. It is not a whole food product. And it's really, really important if you're going to keep your brain healthy and your stomach, your gut healthy, you want a whole foods plant-based diet, preferably organic. Now, I know that's really hard. In Canada, it's very expensive. But there's something called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And you can find that online. Just put in Dirty Dozen fruits and vegetables. And things like spinach, unfortunately, and kale, grapes, apples. Those are amongst the fruits and vegetables that are most sprayed with insecticides and pesticides. You want to buy organic of those. The Clean 15, those are, I think sweet potatoes are among them, but there are certain fruits and vegetables that are a little cleaner. So if you have to budget,
Yes.
then buy those ones that aren't organic.
Interesting.
Yeah, because organic, I mean, think of what glyphosate does. So one of the things that contributes greatly to the chance of developing Alzheimer's is inflammation. It's a very popular notion right now that we have to watch inflammation. Especially if you're a little older, because it really bothers the joints and that sort of thing. But inflammation can cause something called leaky gut. It's a real thing where the inflammation causes the junctures in our gut to loosen. And so the stuff that shouldn't be getting into our bloodstream gets into our bloodstream. And where does that go? Right to the brain. And that's when our proteins, our immune system kicks in. And then it starts building those proteins up to protect the brain. That's one thing that it can do. It can also just cause inflammation of the brain. It can also mess with the insulin. There's many things that it can do, and I explain all that in the book. But by eating a diet that has pesticides that can open and herbicides that can actually destroy that gut lining, and it kills those good little. Have you heard of the microbiome?
Yes.
Yes. So those little bugs, we have more DNA from those microbes than we do of our human DNA in our bodies. So the microbiome then, if we disrupt it with antibiotics, with processed food, with lots of sugar, that really messes with the bugs in our body. Those also get out of balance. So you get more bad bacteria than good bacteria, and that causes all kinds of issues too. So that's why when I say a whole foods plant-based diet, preferably organic as much as you possibly can, that is because all of those things that go into processed foods, generally speaking, processed foods are not organic. You might find some that are organic, but even if they're organic, they're still processed.
So if this is known, Kate, why does the government allow all the crappy food that we have on our shelves if they're going to just do harm to us at one stage or another in our life?
Oh, hon, I wish I had the answer. That is the $64,000 question, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because
it's horrific.
it is, because we know that glyphosate causes cancer. We know that. We know that it disrupts the gut microbiome. We know that. That's a fact. That's not speculation. There's all kinds of scientific proof.
Yeah.
And they allow it to be sold. Why? Because there are very powerful forces that are influencing the people who make the rules to let this continue.
The same applies to the cigarette industry, the alcohol industry. And I think one of the stupidest things that the governments have ever done is the legalization of marijuana, because now you've got people who are not only drinking, but they're also smoking up at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a crazy world we live in. And unfortunately, it's the people it's the people of, the different sociological categories that we have in this world of ours today who are suffering. And what is this going to be doing to the youth by feeding them garbage food?
Oh, that is my big concern. And that's why I'm so passionate about this, Rob, because we think that by 2050, there will be 3 times as many people as currently. There are 58 million people with Alzheimer's right now, 3 times as many by 2050. And that's going to be these young people that are coming up now with the food that they're being fed, with the Wi-Fi and G5, Wi-Fi does have an effect.
Yeah.
EMF does have an effect. It can cause big problems with all of the processed foods, with the alcohol and the vaping. Oh my gosh, that vaping! I don't know who let that get through.
From what I've seen over the years, it's whoever can make the most money and pay the most to the deep-pocketed politicians out there are the companies that, number one, win the battle, and number 2, these are the companies that contribute to the failing health system that we've got.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, you make them sick, and then because the same company that makes you sick, Bayer owns Monsanto now, so they're making people sick, and then they get to sell their drugs. What a deal.
And of course, the government makes all the money on the taxes and on the licensing and everything else that goes on behind the scene.
That's right.
And
it's really frustrating. And when I've done so much research, Rob. I've spent almost 10 years researching this stuff now. And when I see how even the drugs, so the Alzheimer's drugs, they've spent billions and billions and billions of dollars researching this, and they all fail. There's like Eli Lilly, is it Lilly? One of them has even bowed out of the field completely because they're not having any success. But they won't spend $50,000 to do a good research study to see how much better an older person could be in a nursing home if they were fed a whole foods plant-based diet.
Well, if we do that, and if we keep our seniors healthy, then they won't go into the long-term facilities where, once again, independents and corporations are making mega bucks.
Yeah.
It's horrific. And I talk to people about UFOs, ghosts, things that go bump the night, and as well as the conspiracy theorists who are totally out to lunch. Do something about the problems that are real, for goodness sake. Let's stop inventing problems to solve when there are so many problems right in front of us. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and it makes no sense to me either, Rob. And you know what? The school system with the lunches. When you think about what the kids get for lunch.
Let's talk about this when we come back for our final break, because this is a topic that drives me crazy as well. Kate Kunkel's my very special guest. www.katekunkle.com. Once again, the name of her book that is coming out this September is Don't Let the Memories Fade, and we'll both be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, Simul Radio, and Simul TV. Welcome back, everyone. Kate Kunkel is our guest this hour, www.katekunkle.com. She has a new book coming out this September. It's entitled Don't Let the Memories Fade. First of all, Kate, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight and for sharing the information that you have acquired during the research of Alzheimer's when Alzheimer's touched your own family with your mom. So thank you very much for everything you've done.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
We were just going to talk about the nutritional values of kids at lunchtime, and I didn't know there were any.
Yeah, that's they're not many. Yeah, no. That's true. It's just disgusting, really, what they pass off as food.
It seems that if there's a convenience store near a school, chips and pop are the order of the day, unless there's a pizza parlor or a McDonald's nearby.
Yes, that is so true, so true. But even when the schools provide the lunches, they're not any better.
No, that's true. It's not like when I was a kid going to school. Well, in elementary school, we brought our own lunch, so Mom and Dad made sure that we got the very best that we could get at the time for our lunches, because my mom's European. So she understands the value of, number one, a good diet. Number two, going to bed at a decent time. She believed in structure in the home. And, when you got home from school, you went out to play. After supper, you did your homework that Mom and Dad checked before you went to bed. But today...
What a novel idea.
Yeah, it is. And yet today, with all the handheld devices, kids today, I don't. What will happen if there's a solar flare that knocks out the electronics?
Life will end as we know it. That's actually a really good point, Rob, what you just brought up, because one of the really important things we must do. We're social animals, right? Humans, we're meant to be with other humans. That's how we're built. We are not meant to be communicating on a screen.
No,
that's not personal interaction. There are many things that are missing when you speak to someone that way, when you communicate, especially if you're texting or doing something through social media. One of the things that that shows up most frequently when people are declining, and this is a big problem now with COVID, because people who are already a little bit on the edge with cognitive decline, or if they're already demented, this isolation has been devastating. I mean, just absolutely devastating. And I see this with even with my own dad, who's still in there by himself, and he couldn't go out and do things, he has declined because
Oh,
he has a
gosh.
little bit of dementia, because of strokes.
Right.
So these kids now, they're coming up. They are not getting true human social interaction. What's happening to their brains? In addition to all the other stuff that's going on with poor nutrition and everything and not getting enough exercise, because that's huge,
Yeah.
they are not able to communicate properly. They're not getting the hormones that are created when we are involved with people in a direct social way.
Once again, we look at society and we say, why aren't you doing something about it? We look at the governments and say, why aren't you doing something about it? I think we should also look at the school system and say, hey, why aren't you guys doing something about it?
Yeah, and now the school system where everything's done online.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly. I just boggles my mind. Like, there's no more family unit unless everybody's got a handheld device. You go to restaurants before COVID started. My wife and I would go to, let's say, Swiss Chalet. And what we do in our house and when we go out for supper, we don't bring our cell phones with us. We leave them in the car.
Yep.
Because there's nothing that cannot wait until after supper, as far as I'm concerned.
With you 100%, Rob.
Yeah.
We see it all the time. Even here, people have no money. And they're on the bus, our rattle trap buses, and they're on the bus and they're on those gosh darn devices. They don't even look at each other.
The excuse where, I need it in case of emergency. Well, when I was a kid, and I'm sure the same is with you, we each had a dime. That was our lifeline. If you needed help, you put the dime in something called a pay phone, and you'd put your finger in something called the telephone dial, and you do something called kids today they scare the hell out of me, because what is going to happen if there is a solar flare and the communication satellites are knocked out, the power lines are knocked out, the cell towers aren't working? What are these kids going to do? What are some adults going to do?
A lot of adults. Yeah, I'm seeing it all the time, all the time. Even here.
Really?
I was so disappointed when I came here. I thought, it's going to be better. I'll be able to have conversations with people. I'll be able to practice my Spanish. But I get on the bus and they're just their noses are in the stupid devices just as much as they were at home.
Do you think there's anything we can do to change it, to make it better?
The only thing I honestly, you are doing a huge thing by bringing it to the public, because without people like you, Rob, people don't understand this. There's nowhere else you're not going to get it on major media. You're not going to get it on corporate media at all. So it's up to people like you have the platform to do this, Rob. You're our best, greatest hope. People like
thank you so much. That is so nice of you to say.
Well, that's true.
Oh.
But also we can encourage people to just stop a moment and evaluate, what am I doing with my life now that will impact me when I get a little bit older? Because you know what, even though you don't think you're going to make it, you do make it. You make it to 65 or you make it to 70. And when I learned what I know now, I changed my life dramatically. I became totally vegan. I lost 42 pounds,
God bless
Rob.
you. Wow.
And I didn't even try, because I was eating whole foods, clean foods. Nothing was getting stuck in my gut.
Right.
Everything. My skin is better. I have more energy. I'm 62 years old. I have more energy now than I did when I was 32. So if people could just stop a moment and think, every choice you make, is this good for my brain? Because if it's good for your brain, it's also good for your heart. And it will also help you prevent cancer. And those are the big killers in our society and the big reason the medical system is in such a mess.
Kate, what would you say to someone who has a spouse or parent or grandparent who is beginning to show signs of Alzheimer's? And how do you suggest that they deal with it?
Yeah, so you have to tread softly because people get their backs up pretty quick, yes? If somebody says to you, wow, your memory's not so good, like that you can't do it that way. So the way we did it with my dad after his strokes is we just said, hey, Dad, would you like to do this? Or how about let's go here? Let's do this. And we would take him to places where we knew we would get some stimulation for him. So like we signed him up for a stroke rehab group.
Yes.
And until COVID hit, they went every Friday and he'd meet with people and he'd have fun. They'd play games and stuff like that. So that is one thing, to get them in a gentle way to do things that they have not done before, because my dad would never have done that stuff before, because learning new things is so powerful. So get them out of their zone, because that will also make them more open to other things. And that might mean different foods that are healthier. That might mean, going to a concert, because I know it sounds weird, but I took my dad to see the New Year's Day concert there in Toronto,
Yes.
the Vienna Salute.
Right.
I took him to see that. He'd never been to anything like that before. New experiences, especially if they have music, of course, are very, very powerful. Suggesting food things, but you know what? If you're the caregiver, if you're somebody who's going to end up being looking after this person, you're going to have to make those changes too.
How about the musicals that are available on DVD that people with Alzheimer's can actually watch at home?
Yeah, it's always good to have music. I don't care how you get it. But it's better if somebody's with you when you're watching it. And it's actually better if it's music that is familiar to the person, so that they can talk about the memories connected with it.
So what you do is you get the little brain neurons firing and stimulated, and they can actually start going back and forth through the little file drawers in their mind and pulling out the information.
Exactly.
Excellent.
And another thing, I can't remember the doctor's name. He's in California. He suggests cooking to get the smells in the house,
Right.
and to talk about that. The tastes, of course, textures, touching fuzzy things or silky things, because imagine a bride and groom on their wedding night 65 years ago, and he's stroking her beautiful satin gown. Those kinds of memories are amazing to help those neurons fire.
Kate, I hate to do this, but you and I have to say so long for now. I want to thank you ever so much for joining us. As always, great pleasure talking to you, my friend. Continued success, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you very much, and to you.
Let's keep in touch.
We will.
Take care, Kate, and enjoy
Bye-bye.
the beaches.
I most certainly will. Thank you.
Bye-bye now. X-Zone Nation, our guest this hour has been Kate KUNKLE. And for more information about Kate, visit her website, KateKunkle.com. And the name of her book coming out in September, Don't Let the Memories Fade. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.